Oh yeah. What up, y'all? It's your boy, one and only Aswitch, aka the Baritone Ninja, aka the 20-time undefeated social distancing champion, aka quarantine quitter. Bringing you yet an episode. Oh, yeah. That took me off. Bringing you yet another episode of Switch's Sights. Episode 51 to be exact. Today's date is April 16th, 2020. Boy, this quarantine ain't letting up, is it? I'm just saying. It's getting real out here. I mean, it was getting real before, but it's getting even more real now. Hopefully everybody's being safe and not getting that Rona. Cause boy, it's curtains. It's curtains. It's curtains if you do. So by golly, I hope you don't. Just saying. Just saying. But let's stop the dilly-dallying and get into it. So, first order of news. Apparently, the Nintendo Switch, in the recent firmware update, which I still have to update. It's been a minute, so I've booted up my Switch. A Switch booting up a Switch. I'm still need to hold Nintendo and taking my damn name. That's another battle. It's a battle for another day. So with the new latest firmware 10.00, apparently within the code, which just the environment we're in now, some folks were able to basically data mine the heck out of it and found some interesting code that suggests that there potentially is some extra or additional hardware that is going to be potentially added to the Nintendo Switch family. So what a lot of people are speculating, or at least what the code is hinting at, that possibly it might be something actually along the lines of a Wii U revival, if you will. Wii U coming for you. That's confirmed new name of this new addition to the Switch family. So apparently it's going to be a whole new model for the Switch, I guess along the lines of the Switch Lite. So there might be like somewhat of a maybe more smart Wii U, where basically, at least in this instance, it'll actually be a legitimate kind of Wii U setup where maybe there's a dedicated console, but then you have maybe a Switch you already own that you can use like the Wii U. But in this scenario, you can probably, take it with you to the bathroom. I don't mean, hey, you do you. I mean, hey, you getting them Animal Crossing flowers, but pooping at the same time. But I mean, hey, that's your prerogative. So apparently that might be that type of setup, potentially. Maybe. But at least it's hinting at, in terms of the code, that there is going to be an additional display relative to, DS, 3DS, and of course the Wii U. So if anything, that'd be pretty cool, pretty welcome. They might make things more compatible, and in terms of porting, like Wii U games, even heck 3DS games to some extent, maybe give them a new coat of paint where it looks much better on Wii U, or whatever this may be called, or if it is something. So but yeah, hopefully would be cool if my theory I had a while back, that potentially somehow, some way they can make like two Switches work, or even like a Switch Lite and a Switch, so you can have like traditional Switch and then have another Switch connect to it, and then incorporate some of that dual screen functionality as well. but it seems like it's probably might not be that. It would be cool maybe if there's some optional addition you can add to it, like a secondary, just a dedicated controller that has all the capabilities, like basically essentially buying the Wii U tablet to connect to your existing Switch would be pretty cool. So yeah, so that's at least some type of potential route we might go with the next revision of the console or new iteration of the console. Which a lot of people are thinking that this might be calling back to the NX, or at least what it was rumored like last time. If you see some of the mock-up photos and pictures, it looks like similar to it looks somewhat like a PS Vita, but way more just more football shaped. And then supposedly had a touch screen as well with having that functionality. So who knows what this does entail, but apparently there could be more models on top of that. So there could be more heavily rumored or somewhat solidified dedicated Switch console that may be like possibly even cheaper than the Switch Lite, where it's in kind of the reverse side of the Switch family, where it's like specifically dedicated for home console use, where there might be some cut costs in terms of just connecting it directly to power source, as well as having pretty much all of majority of the functionality of a Switch, but obviously not being able to do the opposite of the Switch in terms of using it portably. So would be interesting if that is the case, but yeah, it's so weird. It's like a Switch that doesn't switch, but why is it called a Switch? And what would they call this? Maybe the Switch TV, Switch Home or something. But either way, pretty fascinating if true, I have to say. But who knows? Maybe they just be putting that code in there just to, maybe it was in there by mistake, and maybe just a possibility, maybe a buffer, if anything, just to set themselves up if, FCOM 5, we can't sell Switches anymore or something. I don't know, but pretty interesting aspect, if anything, though. I'm very interested if and what this is, if it does come to be true, or at least how it works, because at least from the surface, it's hard to fathom how it would technically work if it does exist. So next topic of discussion that I'm very, very disappointed, sad, slightly perturbed to discuss. So at least starting off first, what we thought was a April Fool's joke that my dumb ass fell for previously in regards to for April Fool specifically, it was aspect if somebody just said, hey, it is confirmed that Resident Evil 4 Remake is confirmed for 2022. I'm like, oh man, you bullshitting. So I sure as hell clicked on it and then read through it, and it's like basically it's like, got your dumb ass. No motherfucker, this April Fool's. Okay. It doesn't exist. But lo and behold, to my disappointment, it actually is highly solidified that it is actually a thing and has been apparently in development since 2018, I believe. So pretty much this is by VGC, the website. By the way, I guess they somehow confirmed with the same company that I guess finished up Resident Evil 3 Remake. I believe, I think as to why Resident Evil 3 had such a short length, I think was attributed to I guess the game getting passed around a few developers, I believe. And I think lastly, M2 finishing it up. Since they did say it did start the same time as Resident Evil 2 remake, so it had way more time, but technically, but did not really show for it, it seemed. But either way, they're the company that's gonna supposedly be working on this, or may have been working on it for a while, going by what we've heard. So yeah, it's just this game is, of all the games in the series, does not need a remake right now. It really doesn't. It's graphically holds up really good. From a mechanical standpoint, very good. Pacing, that game is near perfection. Definitely, I could confidently say one of my favorite games of all time, hands down for sure. But that's a pretty high pedestal to maintain yet to surpass. So it's definitely going to be a lot of scrutiny when this does come out. If it will, live up to expectations, and at the least, because anything lesser, I don't know, but we'll see. But just gonna straight skip Code Veronica, huh? Just straight skip that game completely, I guess. I believe it was some rumorings. I want to say we discussed in maybe some previous episodes that they did manage to, or they were trying to get that off the ground, but apparently, I guess in the same, fate as Dino Crisis, just didn't happen. Stars didn't align, whatever. So, disappointing. Definitely, Code Veronica is definitely way more in dire need of a remake. But of course, they're like, you know what? Let's go where the money's at. I mean, everybody loves Resident Evil 4. We already gave it to them like 20 times. It's literally on every generation. I mean, you can get it on the Nintendo, not the Nintendo Switch. No, you can get on a Super Nintendo. We actually made a demake. So people that don't even have any of the modern consoles, hey, you can get your Resident Evil 4 fix right then and there. Yeah. It just doesn't need it. Give it like 5 years at least, which I guess technically from now, that's 2 3 years, too short. So, it's gonna have a lot to live up to, and then just the potential changes that they may make. It's just gonna be. I'm gonna be highly skeptical as one of the biggest fans of that game. I'm gonna be very, very skeptical in terms of how they take care of it and treat it. But I mean, if they've been developing it since 2018, they definitely must. We might be hearing about it sooner than we may think or suspect. So, it is so much they can mess up, man. They can mess up a lot. I mean, there's always still the original game, but I don't know, just tarnishing something so so sacred. I feel it's just I don't know. It's just very touchy waters, if anything. But I mean, I'm not gonna lie to say I would like to see Resident Evil 4 in the RE engine, because boy, that's gonna look drop dead gorgeous for sure. And at least lining up with the rumors of Resident Evil 8 that we talked about, I believe last episode, that it might look, they might have a lot of assets that they can then give to Resident Evil 4 as well, since it's essentially going to be set in somewhat of a similar setting to 4, going by the leaks rumors. So, man, it's so much they could just change, and that in turn could just thwart the pacing of the game overall, which was immaculate. It's a lot they could really mess up, man. It's a very, very high high bar they need to at least meet. At least meet. I'd be very surprised if they surpass. But and then on top of that, of course, Shinji Mikami, the god that pretty much saved Resident Evil yet again. After I think the first one, he directed, and then I think did other stuff, and then I think came back for RE4, or at least originally. And apparently they tried to get him to direct this remake, his baby, but I guess he declined. But he said he would consult or provide some direction. So not at least hands on, but at least some loose consultation direction, which is at least good. At least that he won't like, oh no, this is horrible, just turn around now. So that's at least somewhat calming to hear. So yeah. Well, yeah. I'm just one, way more deserving games that are in need of a remake, and two, it's so damn near perfect that anything that could potentially tarnish it could potentially tarnish it. So I really did not want this to be true, but I mean, I'ma still get it though. After all this, I mean, I'ma still get it though. I will be lying. One of my favorite games of all time being remade, and I'm not gonna try it out. Boy. Moving on. So apparently, obviously, with the current climate we're in terms of the virus that is corona based, they're supposedly, it was highly suspected that the PlayStation 5 output in terms of specifically the distribution of the consoles would be very limited and kind of, if anything, not even maybe come out this year. But apparently it is actually going to be limited, but for totally different unexpected reasons. So apparently the PlayStation 5 is going to be produced still, but at very fewer units due to I guess specifically the cost of the console, as well as something else. It was the cost, and it was one other aspect in particular. Maybe it was just the cost. Actually, I think it was just the cost. But yeah, very surprised that the coronavirus wasn't any factor, surprisingly. So that's, I guess, good news in terms of, the Series X, as well as in general for these consoles to actually still come out. Yeah, interesting. So apparently the price, or this rumored price that the PS5 might launch at, is $500 to $550, I believe, which, considering what's going to be in it and the technologies and stuff, seems to make sense. It seems like it's more than likely what is going to happen. So yeah, makes sense. So it's definitely significantly less. I believe it's going to be 5 to 6 million this year, compared to 7.5 million, which was the PS4 back in November 2013. So that's a pretty big number, especially now, considering people are in an environment where they're probably going to want to more so than before. Yeah. Gonna be some Hunger Games. I'll kill you for a PS5, or the the running gag I've been seeing a lot, at least specifically on Twitter, is dating sugar mamas, sugar daddies for, well, I guess more so sugar mamas. Obviously, women play games, of course, but I'm saying in terms of the common thing I've been saying is sugar mamas. Hey, I gotta get that PS5 somehow. Hey, hey, I gotta get that PS5 by any means necessary. Any means necessary. That's thinking about that's pretty funny though. I just wanted the PS5, you know, running across like some dude with some old lady, some Get Out mess, and like just turns around. I just only wanted a PS5. I'm sorry, man. Hey, what would you do? What would you do, sir? So yeah, very interested that it wasn't due to the virus. Interesting. Next topic. Apparently Grand Theft Auto 6 is halfway in development. What, 6 years? 7 years after it's after 5, apparently only halfway done. It's like I'm surprised but not surprised at the same time, because like it's Rockstar, and I guess apparently they were all hands on deck for Red Dead Redemption 2 as well, which I guess makes sense there. So, but apparently it is somewhat close. I mean, well, for by Rockstar standards, that is pretty close, considering, you know, their very loose timeline in terms of releasing I guess subsequent games from their studios. So very cool. Very interested to see what a GTA 6 is like. 'Cause, I mean, you know, it feels like each iteration is just so like drastically better than the last. So it's like it's hard to even like fathom or envision what the next generation will be for GTA. And I guess technically this game skipped a generation, or it did technically skip a generation. GTA, I mean, technically you could say it re-released on, you know, next gen or current gen consoles, but technically it premiered on the 360 PS3. So technically it did skip a there hasn't been a new Grand Theft Auto exclusively for our current generation, which is crazy, even though, yeah, it's kind of like right on the cusp of when it did release. So interesting. So yeah, I'm very curious what like the setting, the protagonists, how all that's gonna play out. But I mean, they obviously got something in mind. And just straight hype can't contain news. If that's the thing, it's probably not. Apparently Streets of Rage 4, in terms of the supposed suspected release date, which was gonna be, I think, the 24th, but apparently as of today, it might be tomorrow. Might be a shadow drop, which would be great. Be excellent. If so, you know I'm keeping my goddamn eyes on if that's gonna be a thing, because I wanted to so bad. Yeah, so very very small thing, but hey, had to point that out. Big fan of Streets of Rage 4, if you don't know by now. Also, the Crisis, aka the I'd say gold standard of benchmarking for PC games. That's probably a pretty established reputation, I'd say. They released a tweet saying "receiving data" in all caps. This was, I think, earlier this Monday ish. But I think shortly after that, well, maybe a day or two after, they did confirm that it actually is going to be a remake or a remaster. Crisis Remastered, I believe, for PC, Xbox One, and PS4 and Nintendo Switch. So boy, Nintendo Switch At this point, it's just like impressive that they can all these new games coming out, and then on Switch, like, oh, Switch, geez, they had to tone the hell out of that down. I mean, it still blows my mind. You could play the entirety of Witcher 3 on a cart on the Switch. I mean, obviously they definitely cut back a lot of the game, but that is still crazy and hard to fathom that they're able to fit so much into such a small little cart. But apparently it's possible. So, Crisis Remastered, Nintendo Switch, Xbox One, PS4, PC. I've not been I guess I haven't been a big Crisis fan, if anything, but I mean, just I appreciate it for the fact that it can really, show how good your PC is if it can run it. Can it run Crisis though? Can it run Crisis though? That's the moniker to go by. It really is. I mean, obviously now there are more kind of test benchy games to mess with. Like, if anything, Tomb Raider OAC, Grand Theft Auto 5 for sure. Actually, I think that's it. That's the only ones that come to mind, at least. Counter-Strike, of course, Counter-Strike Go. Yeah, those are the main ones. I don't know. Might try this out. I wonder if they will be really funny if at least specifically for the PC, if they have like a straight dedicated will it run on Crisis mode? Yes, no. They just tell you that straight up. No, you cannot play Crisis on this. So very curious how very interested to see how this version is gonna bust its chops. Oh, I'm gonna be checking out that Digital Foundry video and see what any and every change they made to it. Next, in pretty sad news, not necessarily sad, kind of somewhat positive, but the man, the video game reporter of ages, Jason Schrier, is leaving Kotaku as of today, which he's leaving for, I believe, another news outlet. So it seems like he's still doing the same thing, but he's been so like associated and if arguably established Kotaku as a pretty popular video game website for journalism and whatnot. So pretty sad to see him leave Kotaku specifically, but apparently at least listening to his podcast, you could tell there was some animosity starting to build in terms of, I think, specifically the layoffs within the sub company, because I believe Kotaku is owned by a bigger company that manages other various journalism sites. So at least being a fan of his podcast, specifically the Kotaku Split Screen. Yeah, it's sad. I also it touching on that, he's also leaving Kotaku Split Screen, obviously, as well. So not sure what the status is going to be after that, but at least his team, Kirk, Maddie, and himself, will be actually creating a new podcast called Triple Click. So instantly I sub to that, because boy, they have a very unique, very interesting take in terms of video games as well. So all the luck, Jason. I definitely have a fan of me. I'll follow you wherever you go. But yeah, man, it's crazy. End of an era. End of an era. Even though he's still gonna be doing what he does. On that note, I think that pretty much concludes all the news for today. This week. At least that stood out to me. So let's get into that nitty gritty. Some of those games I've been up to. of course, obviously Modern Warfare. I touched a little bit of it in terms of the new season that dropped as of last week, technically. Was it this week? Boy, yeah, this quarantine, man, everything's starting to fuse together. But either way, season 3 dropped. So I messed with a little bit of that. I mainly just messed with the new maps. They dropped a new map, a couple of maps. I think one was Backlot from Modern Warfare COD 4, Modern Warfare 1, technically. I think the other one is a brand new one overall. I forgot the name for that one. But I was playing a new playlist they had just to mess with those and, various game modes, which I had a pretty good time with as well. But all in all, I still have to get my fingers deep in it, but in due time. But why I haven't been playing that is obviously, one of the best games, best RPGs known to man, Final Fantasy, came out with that remake 5 years in the making, maybe potentially longer. But it did finally arrive as of last Thursday. Actually, I think I got it while before I started recording last week's episode, but didn't get into it afterward. But boy, delved into it pretty much shortly after, and pretty much played throughout the whole weekend, and finally beat it last night. I did pretty much everything I could in terms of all the extra stuff. I think I might have missed some hidden stuff I wouldn't have found normally. So outside of that, beat the game, and boy, overall, I'll just give my somewhat semi-review impressions. Very not gonna get into spoilers. Maybe I'll save that for maybe next week's episode. But boy, yeah, pretty great, pretty excellent. I'm still in that phase of trying to compartmentalize and reflect on how I felt about the game. But overall, I'd say it was pretty great, pretty damn fucking great, actually. Yeah, everything I wanted them to do, they did. I could definitely for sure say that. Definitely they added a lot of extra stuff, and also elaborated and fleshed out a lot of the kind of very overlooked rush parts in the original game. So they definitely did a great job of really fleshing a lot of stuff out that probably maybe they wanted to originally do but didn't get a chance to for whatever reason. But they definitely did do it here, and to a very understandably good reason. So at first I think a lot of us were skeptical in terms of how this would play out and if it would, and it's just, I don't know, it doesn't really just only the Midgar section of this, and after you beat the game you'll definitely see why for sure. I'll at least leave it at that. But at least after playing the game, it totally feels like a legitimate full-blown typical Final Fantasy game for sure. It didn't feel like, it wasn't too many, like, I guess padding stuff or just artificial stuff just to make it longer. Of course there was maybe like very minute aspects of that, but overall as a whole it felt like a lot of it was very, very much fully realized, and just overall validated and justified into the reasoning and logic of them having to basically compartmentalize this game into multiple games, at least to get the vision that they wanted. So it for sure definitely accomplished that. And I felt after beating the game very, very, very satisfied with the ending and the implications and everything, because again, not spoiling anything, but boy, it's gonna be divisive. I can definitely see the divisiveness of it. I don't think it's gonna be like any like Mass Effect 3 levels of divisiveness or anything like that, but it will for sure be divisive for a lot of folks. I can definitely see that. But me personally, totally loved it and all the implications of it. For sure. The combat was great, specifically in terms of um, just turn it into a more real time focus, making it more action RPG than like a standard typical RPG. I felt it did a great balance of bringing in Final Fantasy to a more newer audience gameplay aspect while still keeping a lot of the essence of Final Fantasy 7 original combat system intact. So specifically in terms of just the general gameplay, you can basically hit X to do a combo, and depending on your character, hit triangle to do an extra additional move. But kind of in keeping it in line with the original Final Fantasy game, to do more powerful actions, you have to wait for your ATB gauge, which is basically just a gauge that fills up, and up to 2, or depending on some material and stuff, you can increase that. But essentially, basically, there you have to wait in the same manner as Final Fantasy 7 original, where you have to wait for your time meter to go up before you do a big attack, which works in the same way but in a much faster pace and a more action oriented pace, which I feel it really works. It really works, and it feels like a unique evolution of the original's combat system. At first, I was very skeptical. I was like, I don't know. I mean, Final Fantasy 7 is going to not very true to the original, but yeah, after playing it for pretty much the whole game, yeah, it's very good, very solid. It definitely also encourages switching between your characters. So at least what I noticed playing myself, if I were to play a character for too long, so like obviously Cloud, if I want to play with him through the whole length of a fight or battle, it would seem to punish you or be very difficult if you do it that way, which you technically can get away with, but you definitely benefit more from switching between your characters more frequently. So normally, like my flow, at least I learned after a while of playing the game, is you do maybe a combo here and there, and then switch to your other character, at least Barrett, for example, have him shoot from a distance, do his power attack, switch from him to Tifa, for example, have her do her sick ass fucking melee combos, and that does need to be said. Tifa 1 is Bae, hands down for sure. Additionally, Tifa is ridiculous in this game in terms of just her moveset and her mechanics overall. She feels like straight out from some like beat 'em up, which I totally love and adore all in one. Yeah, she is pretty great. Definitely for a while I was like, let me switch to Tifa. I made her my main party leader. So whenever you start a battle, you can basically start a battle with a specified person in your party. So at least for a good minute, I was like, you know what? Let me be Tifa for a good while, because man, she is dope. So that's exactly what I did, and did not regret it. She is very fun, ridiculously fun to play. Barrett's really cool, especially when you find some more of his weapons. He definitely opens up a bit more. Aerith is kind of Aerith. I mean, I will say, considering the game, how do I describe it? The game elements, the story elements. She seems at least not as played much compared to other characters. I could definitely say that. There are opportunities where you can kind of flesh her out or play with her a bit more, but it seems like from a main storyline standpoint, you don't get to play her as much. But a lot of the side stuff, you can optionally kind of flesh her out a bit more. But she was cool. I didn't get much time to play with her, at least, but from the times I did, she was doable. I liked her, as my backup backbone in terms of healing and magic and stuff. Obviously, very true to how she is in the main original game. So also love the materia, how they treated it in this game. It feels essentially just like they just ripped it out from the original and just put it in here for the most part. Obviously, balancing and adjusting it to the new combat system in this one, but it works so well, and again, it's just so rewarding and customizable, flexible, which is again kind of what its appeal was in the original games as well. So I was very satisfied with the materia system. It felt just like it was in 7, with some obvious differences and changes here and there, but overall very true to the original, which I appreciated. I loved a lot of the additions to the game because they definitely for sure fleshed out a lot of stuff. They added a lot of extra stuff to the game, which for the most part I really enjoyed. It wasn't necessarily any extra component I didn't really not like. It was appreciated, if anything. But all in all, I was with it. I still feel like I need to do another playthrough just to kind of somewhat solidify my thoughts and feelings after. But all in all, I was very satisfied. Satisfied with all the stuff they added. It really made sense, and it really did add, rather than detract from the main game's intent. If anything. So yeah. What else? I'll try to touch on some of the negative parts. At least specifically, I had a gripe with the air combat in some aspects. It felt annoying in a lot of ways. Specifically, more so if you don't have Baird in your party, who's Baird or Aerith, who are more long range than close range. And even then, when you have like Tifa Cloud try to fight in the air, it just seems very limiting for you. A very big disadvantage, which may be somewhat arguably the intent that they implemented for you to kind of encourage you to play your ranged characters more, or basically anybody that's not Cloud more. But I don't know, it just felt clunky and inconvenient, in a lot of scenarios. So it would be a scenario where I'm fighting on a roof or just anywhere really, and then I would do it, but then the enemy would constantly move, and then it's like if you try to do it, but he in a lot of cases doesn't seem like he would teleport to the character to fight him in the midair, and then you can only do one combo and then you fall back down and you have to get back up to do the combo again. I don't know, I just felt like that could have been a bit more refined and more efficient, where you could do a lot of your moves in the air, but I guess that would in turn eliminate the encouragement to use the range characters more in that case. So it could definitely been at least touched up a bit more, I feel, but it was still serviceable. But yeah, that was at least one annoying aspect, not really a detriment. And it wasn't that many enemies that do fly, but when you did encounter them, those enemies, it did kind of get annoying. There was another aspect. The textures, yeah, the textures were a little weird, iffy. Some of it didn't seem like it was just late to load and pop in. In some cases it does, in some cases I guess it was intentionally doesn't. So it's very hit and miss there, but you can tell you can tell they put a lot of their sources into the actual characters themselves over the environment. But they did still keep maintain somewhat of a balance, as it's not just completely atrocious in a lot of scenarios, but it's just very noticeable, if anything. Um, Negative. Any issues, gripes outside of that? Um, just some of the enemies and some of their tendencies and I guess weaknesses were a little annoying to try to find out. As well as the boss battles. That was another one. The boss battles did feel artificially long, where it you kind of know some of their weakness and tendencies, but depending on the boss, and I guess in a lot of aspects, depending on the materia you have equipped, it can lead to a much quicker or very, very long boss fight, which I found myself in a lot of scenarios where it's like depending on what they're weak to or not weak to, it could take longer to fight an enemy, or if you're not doing a particular aspect, like let's say one enemy, for example, you have to do magic on them first and then you can melee, and then if they switch to a different mode it's the opposite or something like that. I don't know, I feel like it still could have gave you a little bit more leeway in terms of being able to still eliminate the enemy if you were unprepared. So let's say if I had like a fire, I guess somewhat of a sub pro tip, by the way, not really pro tip, but a tip nonetheless, is if you have the elemental materia and mix it with a particular element for your weapon or sword. So for your sword, if you equip it on your sword, you'll get that elemental element for your sword. So you'll make your sword fire based, and it'll visually show that and indicate that as well, which for the right enemy, if they're weak to fire, will hurt them way more than if you were to just hit them without any elemental advantage or bonus. And then the same goes for armor. So if you have armor, elemental, and fire, for example, equipped in your armor, and you are facing a fire enemy, it won't hurt you as much, and maybe not at all. I think depending on how much you upgrade that materia, basically, but it will work at your advantage as well if you equip a similar materia to the enemy that like inflicts that type of element to the enemies or whatever. So yeah, so there's that aspect that yeah, I just felt like if you were underprepared or not prepared, I wish there was some way to kind of offset that some way, like at least maybe not be so drastically, I guess, punishing in terms of if you got a fire sword to a fire enemy, that you would have maybe still somewhat of a chance that maybe it would at the least just default your damage to base, rather than like maybe in some cases heal. I think I've seen in some scenarios depending on the enemy, but again, that's kind of just I guess a testament to not being prepared material wise. So that's kind of somewhat of an argument, if anything, too, where maybe it's just not just a matter of you not being prepared and you getting punished for that. But I don't know, would have liked some way to maybe modify my items in the menu, or maybe it's just specifically limited to materia, but I guess again that just might be just a design choice, but at times it got annoying. So I know it's going to be super annoying when I plan to play it again on hard mode, but that's going to be annoying. But I know it's going to try to force you to find a weakness and exploit it. And then, if you have the concept of the game, the enemies to expect, that kind of will work in your advantage as well. So it's all in all kind of dependent on your outlook on it ultimately. But thinking about that, I want to say I touched on it a little bit, but yeah, some of the additions felt somewhat, yeah, like artificially added, just to have add length and not anything more, not add to the kind of substance of the story overall. But very few and far between, not too frequent. But yeah, majority of it was definitely welcomed and validated for sure. So but yeah, all in all, man, yeah, the cutscenes, fantastic, and the graphics are just stunning. Yeah, especially in HDR, boy, that stuff it just pops. And especially one really cool aspect that I noticed was really cool is that I'm assuming it also works for SDR sets and stuff as well. But if you are in a dark room and you go to and you're this is if it's during the day in terms of the environment you're at, it'll do this cool thing which is kind of similar to real life. If you go outside after being in the dark for extended period of time, whatever, I mean obviously in our day and time currently, it will do this cool effect where it'll be like we're like crazily bright, and then after like a couple seconds it'll actually kind of regulate like you would like the human eye, which I thought was really cool. Nice subtle touch as well. And as well as the camera direction and the really cool smart transitioning from cutscene to gameplay and vice versa, which I thought was really nicely done as well. All in all, man, yeah, pretty good. I guess it's not really really fair thinking about it to compare it directly to Final Fantasy VII because of how different it is from a obviously structural standpoint, and how the game does end basically after pretty much at where it does end from the original game. So yeah, it's hard to, I can't directly compare it until obviously the corresponding parts or additions to the game are released. But yeah, at least from on its own merit, it's definitely for sure better than I definitely for sure like it better than the original Final Fantasy. Specifically in terms of I guess if we were to compare the Midgar to this Midgar, but that's not even fair. Since the length of this game, you can technically beat the original in roughly the same time, if not shorter. So still need to kind of solidify my feelings on it, but overall I definitely came from it very satisfied and loving it. Definitely loving it for sure. Definitely recommend it. Yeah, especially if you're a fan of the original, it's definitely recommend you pick it up. It for sure is a great evolution, and I think it will please a lot of fans of the game, as well as probably anger a lot of others. But again, yeah, I'm not gonna get into that. Maybe next week we'll see. But so good, so good. Just when I started it, just starting the game, I just got goosebumps, man. It's just like the whole kind of I guess what's the word? Reputation, kind of that story of it, and then just the orchestra and everything. Just yes, let's go. Yeah, it was good. Really, really, really good. Yeah, they did so many good things in that. They really did. Choreography, cinematography. Yeah, I really did love the game. I really did. Really, really did. So that is somewhat of my impression review of the game, if anything, I guess. But yeah, that's pretty much what took up my life this whole since last episode for sure. May take up more. Yeah, I still gotta complete some stuff. And for those that may not know, after you beat the game, you do get the opportunity to chapter select, so you can go specifically to chapters and try to maybe do different options and choices and stuff there as well. But at least what I think I'm gonna do is I'm probably just gonna try to clean up some trophies, because it surprisingly is very easy from a trophy hunter standpoint. Just basically maximum 2 playthroughs, doing the next one on hard, getting some of the collectibles. Pretty much majority of this stuff I earned just by naturally playing the game, I believe. But just gonna try to pick up some other stuff. I heard some of the mini games are a bitch in terms of specifically the squat challenge and stuff like that, which I'm not looking forward to. I hear it's crazy hard, but we'll see. That probably might be my biggest challenge, more than the hard mode, but who knows? Yeah, so I think that's a pretty good concept, idea, impression. If I guess maybe you're on the fence, but I mean, even if you're on the fence, shit, like Final Fantasy 7 Remake is almost sold out in a lot of places now, so I'm pretty certain it's definitely going to be selling very well. So it's good they did listen to us. Finally Final Fantasy 7 has been remade and realized till the next one or next thing. So I guess that's worth talking about or touching on a bit, which is that's definitely the biggest kind of suspicion question in terms of what is going to be next, which honestly, after the ending of the game, it is very ambiguous and vague in terms of what could be next. That's at least what I'll say, because they don't really give you for sure, like, hey, the next Final Fantasy is gonna be this or whatever. But yeah, without touching too much or spoiling anything, yeah, you'll have to see for yourself. It's gonna be a very interesting topic of discussion. I feel very fascinating, enlightening topic of discussion in terms of just how remakes are gonna be treated going forward, which I'm very looking forward to, just to see how this will kind of bring an impression on future, remakes and games and how they may go about it. But yeah, boy, it's going to be very interesting at the least. I really want to talk about it, but I don't at the same time, because I want to be very respectful of people that haven't beat it yet, because it is a pretty lengthy game. And I guess that's one aspect too I didn't really touch on. I think overall it took me, this is me also trying to do all the side stuff in terms of specifically the side quests. I think I had a total clocked hours of 55-ish hours. Some of that might be with a grain of salt, where might have had the game on pause and I was doing something else, but I think overall it was roughly 55 hours for me personally. That's roughly, I think, what a lot of people were reporting, I think 40 to 50 hours, or no, I think 35 to 40 for some people in terms of, I think, critical path in it, where I tried to do pretty much did everything that was at least kind of stated or shown for me, with the exception of some of the mini games stuff. But yeah, all in all, it was worth it. 5 years or maybe longer they took, it was worth it. It definitely paid off. Yeah, the ending totally paid off, man. They did everything they needed to, man. They did everything they needed to, I felt, considering the limitations of it, not being, I guess, technically actually the whole game, but that whole thing. But yeah, that's been pretty much what I've been up to gaming wise. And I guess I've been I've been just straight game mode, but now considering our environment, we have some more time to mess with other stuff and media. So that is what I did. Specifically, got back on my Netflix kick. Been somewhat abandoning that for a while. Actually, I canceled it for a bit since I never watched it outside of YouTube, since that's normally my go-to nowadays. Since I just like the to the point, very quick and cut videos. Even though I do and also enjoy the longer stuff as well, but at least specifically for the Netflix kick that got me in it, at least finally got around to watching Castlevania season 3, I believe. Pretty good overall. I definitely enjoyed it. They had pretty much a lot of the mainstays that you expect from the other Castlevania games in terms of intense gore and violence, and deeper exploration of the lore of Castlevania. And definitely was pretty satisfied with the series overall. Yeah, just I guess to leave it at that. You definitely see a bit more of I'm gonna mess it up. Alucard. I think that's it. Alucard. I got it. I did it. Alucard and Simon Belmont, and I keep forgetting the girl that can do magic, but her as well. And then there's this new character who's I forgot his name. Yeah, he's basically, I guess, from the future, and somehow was teleported to this time period, which I guess to my credit, I wasn't maybe fully paying attention to, but I definitely did enjoy it. If anything, it was some interesting twists that happened that definitely is gonna need some explaining come the next season. But obviously, with most episodic stuff or media, that's kind of how they keep you like okay, what's that's gonna be next season, huh? Okay, so yeah, and then of course, because everybody would not shut the hell up about it. Finally got around to watching Tiger King, and boy, did not disappoint. It is very valid in terms of what had everybody in a kerfuffle in terms of talking. Everybody talking about it. It's some stuff that went down on that documentary, man. This is very good documentary in terms of getting you a really good concept and idea of like, yeah. You ever wonder what the private exotic animal owned business is? Well, here you go. And yeah, it's some weird stuff. It's some weird stuff that happens, man. A lot of interesting twists and turns, and very it had a lot of various aspects. If anything, you had like a lot of comedy for sure. You had a lot of very just weird cringiness. You also had a lot of murder mystery-esque stuff as well. Had a pretty good balanced blend of a lot of stuff, I'd say. Had a lot of more sad, emotional stuff. It really hit a lot of beats, I felt. And also just gave you a really good stingers and twists. I definitely binged it for sure. Yeah, it was a lot of interesting stuff. Just to not spoil if you haven't seen it, so definitely recommend it. Very interesting take. It's definitely valid in terms of all the talk and hubbub about it is valid. So you heard it from me. I also keep forgetting to talk about The Walking Dead, but I did catch that not the season finale because I guess that's getting pushed back because of the goddamn coronavirus, which is ruining everything for everybody. But I definitely enjoyed kind of the changes they're making with this season. even though it's, I guess, somewhat almost over now technically, but now having to wait for the payoff of what they're gonna do with the season finale. But yeah, it's great, very great. Walking Dead is, I think, hitting a second stride, I feel, as a longtime fan of the series. But yeah, man, boy, you some good times. But yeah, I definitely am very thankful for Final Fantasy VII and other various games that are helping keep me occupied and keeping the mind off of the just harsh reality that is happening and is real right now. So yeah, I think that will do it for this episode 51 of Switch's Sites. If you're listening to this podcast on your various popular podcasting platforms, if you ever are so inclined, feel free to like, rate, and subscribe, good or bad. Any feedback is appreciated. You can catch me on Twitch TV/Aswitch, where I do stream this podcast live as I'm recording it, so you can get my ugly reactions and just my ugly face in general. If you so choose. You can also catch me on youtube.com/aswitch, where I can finally say now I'm actually putting effort and actually putting videos out. Like I said before, I am uploading a lot of my back catalog that I haven't got a chance to get going and upload. So I have been doing that, as well as actually uploading these episodes of the podcast also. So go me, I guess. Well, considering the environment, if I was at the working in a traditional sense, I may have not had the energy and mind share to get that going. But thankfully, if anything, trying to make positive out of negative, getting all that going and underway. But yeah, you can also follow me on Twitch, not Twitch again, but Twitter, at Aswitch as well. Not sure if I've been promote my Twitter account, but either way, yeah, you can follow me, like women's boobs and just reckless stuff and black Twitter stuff, because I do find that entertaining. But hey, all right, okay, let me live. All right. And what today is, like, what, horny, it's horny National Horny Day, which is just this. Twitter's just an endless fountain of just entertainment, because of just people who can just apparently just declare a day and everybody believes it and trust it as gospel, and everybody now want to show their boobies and booties. So hey, are we losing? No. I mean, are people just following? Yeah. But I mean, is it okay? I don't know. But I mean, hey, booty's gonna be booties though. if you get what I'm saying. I don't know what that means, but you know what? Hey, that's up for your interpretation, not mine, right? Yeah. Outside of that, oh yeah, if you have any questions you'd like to submit to the show for me to read and maybe a future segment, feel free to submit them at aswitchtv@gmail.com. Hey, you never know, I might read your answer on air or question on air, and then answer it to your liking, and maybe you might be satisfied, or maybe you'll be like, this motherfucker, I'm never submitting a question to him again. I mean, obviously if it's a legitimate question, I will answer it, I'm just, yeah. All right. Okay. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I finally think I legitimately covered all of my housekeeping aspects, which I normally miss one or two aspects. So pat myself on the back for that. I'm not a rapper though. All right, let me stop being dumb. Yeah, guys, until next time, get your damn game on.